talk with a person.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm encouraging the grassroots to do, all of our partisan and nonpartisan groups, is to begin these conversations with your legislator in your district. I will help you. I will help set the home meetings up. We need to create a soft landing for these folks to come home to, and purpose to do what was just what Rhonda Villamont Smith here just a moment ago talked about Tess Teague, correct? Mm-hmm. Where you just said that she was kind of going with the flow, mm-hmm. but when proper counsel came in that cared for her and her position and what she was doing, she began to understand the difference between ideology and principle. It's a big difference. What?
You really think you could get my rep to come?
You know, I think I could. I really do. Who's your rep?
Carol Bush.
Yeah, I believe I could get Carol Bush to come. Mm-hmm.
I have a comment to make.
Yes, ma'am.
The Republican brand is meaningless. It's totally meaningless. It's not your fault, not my fault, but the leadership we have in the state, from the governor down,
Right.
the leadership in both houses of the legislature, have absolutely never read the GOP platform. They have no clue what's in it. They could care less. And you now have no brand. Nobody knows what does it mean to be a Republican. I don't think anybody has a clue.
Right.
And I think that the one thing that struck me about this last election that we just had in June was that the vast majority of the people who voted as Republicans were not conservatives. Quite differently, they were very progressive, because almost every candidate that won supported increased taxes, more spending, no reforms, no accountability.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, why should I even bother to even try to be a Republican? And what is the point of all this?
Well, I think the answer to that question is very simple, because we're patriots and we love where we live, and we understand that at the local level is where the real politicking is done. And for us to be effective, you know, we've done a lot of things, but we have got to become effective in what we're doing. And so what's missing? Do we give a litmus test? Well, I kind of do when I meet with them. I really do. I've got 12 constitutional questions that I carry around with me, and I actually give them a constitutional rating when we're done taking the test with new candidates that are coming in. And then I either recommend they run or they don't run. I would recommend that maybe you take some more time to educate yourself a little bit more about civil liberties and freedoms, the constitutions, both state and federal, the Declaration of Independence, but more than just that, how local government really works. So what we've been purposing to do is we've been purposing to meet in these precincts and begin to teach some basic civics classes so we understand what a constitutional representative republic really looks like, what it really is, and what is the difference between that and a democracy. But one thing I'm not called to do as your chairman is I'm not called to be the one that does all of the educating. I can only do so much. And I'm only one man. And so we're 30 to 50 hours a week volunteering in this party every week. My phone will start ringing at 7 a.m. in the morning, literally, and by noon, I've got 17 missed phone calls that I couldn't take because I was on the other line, and 15 text messages that I have not answered on average. My wife is sitting over there, she can tell you. I understand your frustration 100%, completely 100%, but until we begin to rabble-rouse in our precincts and get serious about it. When I mean rabble-rouse, I don't mean problem cause or protest. I mean going door to door, knocking on the door, and inviting people to your homes so we can begin to do a little bit broader educational purpose in houses. I'm a firm believer in this. I'm an absolute firm believer in this. We've seen it work. We've built precincts that have had 0 in them, and in the first meeting had 17, 18 people show up who had never showed up to a party event before in life. They didn't know how to get into the party. We have got to have new blood coming into this party. But to give a litmus test, I do the best that I know to do, and that is I take these 12 very difficult constitutional questions that range from pro-life questions all the way to economics, Keynesian versus Austrian economics.
Australian.
Yeah, Australian. So So I do those things, and I talk to every candidate normally. They're seriously now for the first time. So when I took office, I couldn't beg a candidate to come into my office. This is how devalued the party was, with all due respect to everybody involved. I couldn't beg a candidate to come through. I couldn't get a legislator. I couldn't even fill an executive committee up. This is where the party was at a year and a half ago. And do you know, since then, we have been able to build relationships with these very legislators that you're talking about that we have not been able to put our hands on or talk to. So now we're at a place where if we begin to rabble-rouse, what I like to call rabble-rouse within our precincts, and we can create a place where we can meet and greet our representatives in a kind, passionate, caring way, but yet get our point across that we mean business about this is what we want in our district. This is the majority. This is what we want you to do for us in our district. I get calls every day that people complain about a legislator here or there. But my response to them is that legislator won with 68% of the vote. If you don't like it, start in your own home and begin to rabble-rouse at the precinct level. It's a proven fact. It works. It absolutely works. We have the formula to fix this thing. And it's there that we can begin to vet. It's there that we can begin. The vetting process for our candidates should be coming from your individual homes and your neighbors meeting and talking with these folks. But we don't do that. We blame big, what are those handler guys called? The handle... I just had a brain fart. Consultants. We blame big consultants and big money for our problems. I'm done with that nonsense, personally. I got involved at this level with what I'm doing because I believe that we can change it. I don't think it's the consultant's fault. I don't think it's big money's fault. I'm going to take personal responsibility. It's my fault. And so if you would like to fix your precinct, I'd be more than happy to come in, door knock it out numerous times, push them into your meeting, and we can begin the educational process right there.
My problem is this.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think I know who the Republicans are. I don't think I understand the people in my precinct that are registered as Republicans.
Well,
I don't think I understand what do they want. I don't know what they really want.
They probably don't know.
this is why the precinct meeting is so important. So we can get our communities together and we can begin to philosophize ideology instead of fussing at one another over it. Because if we can sit down and philosophize...
Send some surveys out and see what do these people really
And
think.
I said, Larry Williamson knows, because he went and knocked the doors.
I've knocked on thousands and thousands and thousands of doors.
Maybe we could come up with a short survey of 3 or 4 questions that we could send out with precinct chairs so we could figure out who these people are and what is it they really want.
So
I don't think they have any...
I think that's what he's trying to accomplish by having a
Their
meeting in
idea
the
of
home.
republicanism.
Right, so-
You guys are talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
You've identified the same problem, and your frustration with a Republican Party that in times of past that knew what they were
Dinosaur.
about. I think it was state senators and state
What I'm
representatives.
saying is, I'm not sure the people that are currently registered.
I know what you mean,
Hear anything
but
about
that is the answer right there.
And 80% conservative rating looks wonderful right now, don't it? But I can remember a time in this party when an 80% conservative rating made you a rhino. We would beg for an 80% conservative rating right now. Let us not forget that. So we've had a lot of fractures in this party. We're bringing this party back together. We're uniting this party. We're doing it house by house, precinct by precinct, district by district. It's going to take way longer than 2 years. So your next chairman needs to have his ducks in a row and get on board so we can finish building these precincts out so the vetting comes from you folks. And so we have ideas being transferred to one another and debate, open cordial debate. We must needs begin to engage. Some precincts already have, a number of them already have, begin to engage their legislator, and what they found out is, listen to me. Okay, now we got something we can talk about. At least we're starting a conversation about it. And that's part of the frustration is just like what took place with 788. We got 5 people. We don't even, look, here's the deal.
You're taking his.
I'm sorry. I'm going to preach on 788 for just a moment. And the part of the liberty side of it that I disagree with is the very fact that, and I know we were even talking about 70. I probably going to step in it right here, but it's fine. 788, the whole point that we've got 9 people making a decision for us, whether it's what is medical and what is not medical, is unbeknownst to me when we have a legislature, I believe, that should be actively debating and involved in this, because this is the will of the people. Now, I'm telling you, I'm going to make a loud statement over 788, with all due respect. And I'm not saying I voted for it or I voted against it. I want you to have the liberty that you have a right to. And so, as your party leader, well, this is a non-denominational group. But if you are the Republican Party, as your party leader, just know I am in discussions right now with OK County, Darren Ward up there, and we are discussing what we are going to do as a team in order to try to push this back to our legislators so the men and women who we put into office to govern us have an opportunity to govern it. So anyway, I'm going to leave it right there.
Let's follow the Democrats' lead.
Bless you. I love you.
Because they are calling now for if Fallon does not call a special session, they're calling for the 2/3 of the legislature. They're calling on the Republicans to work together with them to sign on to a special session.
That's Nathan Dom's.
And that's the same thing that Nathan Dom has been trying to do so that he can get constitutional carry heard again. Now, this will probably be specific to 788. I don't know if they'll be able to add on to it or not.
I've got a lot of updates for you.
Okay.
I'll get out of here.
So
I
that's what
apologize
we
it
got.
took so much time.
All right. Thank you, David. Appreciate you.
I have a question.
Okay.
This idea that we have a Republican Party that's going to form out of precincts that is going to somehow or another solve all of our problems is not really well.
But
That's not what I'm saying.
he's saying that you've got to get people involved, and that's the only way that we're going to get people involved,
But
because
which people are we getting involved? Just because they come to a precinct meeting does not mean that they're wanting to be involved in constitutional issues.
If I come to a precinct meeting, I'm wanting to get involved in the party. This is where we begin the educational process at the grassroots level. I'm not saying it's a blanket solution. What I'm saying is it's a new beginning to start a conversation with our legislators so that we can all get on the same page. I'm not arguing. I'm just telling you.
That
and have David Van Risingham come up at this time. He is going to talk. If there's anybody that probably knows more about what's going on with the medical marijuana stuff and what they're coming up with, David would be the one. If we've got questions, if he doesn't have the answers, he might be able to find them for us. But I'm just going to let you have it.
Thank you. Well, a lot of you know me as a strong mental health advocate. And in my work in that area over the last 10 years or so, especially with the multiple tours in the Middle East, we're seeing soldiers coming back with PTSD, real problems. The VA does what they did to my own dad. They just pumped him full of tranquilizers. And they just, were disabled and stuff. And a number of these veterans have, with their families' help, gone to Colorado for medical supervised trials and found that they've been able to benefit. And so with enough anecdotal evidence, I said, you know what, let's try this. And I was tarred and feathered by a lot of circles for it, but I still stand with the need for us to adjust things so that we have the same principles where we allow doctors to use morphine, Demerol, Ritalin, meth, right? That's, and so if we can do this right, I wanted to see it tried. Well, a lot of you guys had a chance to take a break after the June 26th primary. Oh my goodness, things just got started for me on then, and a number of things happened. One was a delightful surprise. Department of Health actually can do something. And they surprised everybody with what looked like a great set of emergency rules put in place. And then they said, now, we're going to have 10 days. We'd like the public to comment. And they had an online form you could fill out, and over 1,000 people posted comments. It wasn't just individuals, it was a lot of groups. It was healthcare providers, clinicians, it was social groups, it was faith groups, it was just a bunch of people. And then these working groups that they had done quietly, and they were very quiet about this back in April, they started different working groups. Julie Izzle, a great lawyer, headed it up. By the way, Tom Bates, who is now I think he's still interim director of the Department of Health, has done a fantastic job. There's nothing more I can say on that. But anyway, they met with a lot of groups, and then last Sunday, they posted their final draft. They said, hearing everybody, this is what we want our board to vote on. And Mary Fallon, meantime, had said, I see these rules. I think we can see what the health department does, and I don't see that we need to call for a special session right now. Well, and then the board met on Tuesday, and then they passed just about everything there, except they came up with a couple of things that are just going to be a challenge. And then they totally omitted, how are we going to get this product to begin with? Because they can't ship it from out of state. That's interstate commerce. The feds step in, and all of a sudden, our health department gets busted on federal narcotics charges, right? They haven't secured, and then they tell anybody who's going to be involved in it, you have to get it from an Oklahoma source, and you have to keep good records at every place you get, who you bought it from, who you sold it to. I mean, they want paperwork like crazy on this. Yeah. So we still don't know how we're going to get it. It's everywhere. You can buy just about every square mile in this town. We all know that. If you don't know it, I'm telling you now. But how are we going to get it legally? This is a trick.
Oh my God, the people down in Antlers, that's their major cash crop.
Yeah. I'm proposing the don't ask, don't tell policy. But anyway, and then they said, and this is Holly Gerard's husband, Terry Gerard, who came up with this, it should be only licensed Oklahoma pharmacists, which, by the way, have a DEA license, right, for control it. And they'll probably lose their federal DEA license by prescribing what's federally still Schedule 1. So it's another catch-22. And it's just going to put this, I mean, folks, if you need it, and a lot of you, I'm sorry, sometime your doctor might tell you, okay? But, like Pat Campbell said, he went to the polling place, saw all these older people showing up to vote. He thought, maybe this isn't going to pass after all. And then he talked to a bunch, and they said, we're voting for it. But anyway, so then we got this problem, of how are we going to do it? And then the second question is, what does a pharmacist know about prescribing marijuana? They get no training. I'd rather hire the local head shop guy to, it's like, no, again. So we've got problems. Tonight, this afternoon, Speaker McCall and Pro Temp designate Greg Tree announced that they're putting together a joint interim study. And next week they're going to name the members of it. It'll be a Senate and House joint deal.
Will they roll their own?
So anyway, call the roll, folks. Okay, but anyway, they're going to, and Greg Tree was very critical of how these additional rules were made on Tuesday. There was no feedback from the public on it. There was, it just wasn't even posted in the open meeting law, those proposed things.
We need to relieve a little pressure.
Yeah, so anyway, so I'll bet you they'll probably meet, might be August before they do, but anyway, then another thing came about, and this happened this last spring, is they changed the structure of the health department, and it's actually the Board of Health, their powers are actually going to be going away January 14th. There will be a commissioner of public health who will have by himself the policy making, rulemaking, with a board of advisors. So what you saw Tuesday was Tom Bates sitting there while, his boss, this board, decided what they were going to do, even though he knows legally they just got him into a bunch of hot water. And so all of a sudden they're going to lose, they won't even get their per diem for going to meetings starting January, so, and, but the appointed Commissioner of Health will be a direct appointment of the governor. So, and a lot of people have been calling for that. I know I have in mental health, because there's no accountability there. The Department of Mental Health, that commissioner is chosen by a board that's just different associations get to pick. The governor actually has very little say in how that board is made. So these unaccountable boards, are really a problem. Yeah. So anyway, I posted today 6 myths on this, and I'm going to tell you. One, the myth was, well, a veterinarian can prescribe it. No, that's not true. It had to be a board licensed doctor able to, practice medicine on people. That left it open to 5, and if we got naturopathic doctors certified in Oklahoma, which some are really pushing for, that would be 6. Well, this board said no, it has to be a DO, doctor of osteopathy, or a MD, medical doctor. So that's the rule on that. Let's see. There was a rule that there was only going to be 50 licensed dispensaries. Actually, that was talk on Tuesday, but they never voted for that, and that got a lot of people worked up.
There's 50 of them within 2 miles of my house.
So anyway, hey, don't go to Peggy's part of town.
No, Maggie's part of town's gonna have the good stuff.
Yeah,
It's gonna cost a little more, but.
Yeah, there's a number of things on it. Pat Campbell was talking to an attorney who said you can have your guns or you could have your weed. Actually, at the time you fill out the current federal firearms background check, they ask you, are you consuming controlled substance? That would disqualify you, is my understanding. However, any firearms you previously owned before you fill that out, or before you begin taking any medication, that would actually take a state law. And California only has one such law, and it isn't about medical marijuana. It's about whether you go see a therapist for mental health, and that therapist has the power to actually tell the state, go take away their guns. And that's bothered a lot of veterans who are struggling with PTSD after putting their lives on the line for our country. Now we're saying they're losing their Second Amendment rights. That's just California. So that's another myth I wanted to dispel. But comments?
Has anybody determined whether a physician is in danger of losing his DEA certificate if he prescribes marijuana?
Well, they aren't prescribing. This is a recommendation. I love that wording. It just simply says, here's what I recommend. And then our state looks at it and says, okay, this person has a license for up to 2 years. What I consider the beauty of the Oklahoma plan is that if you're licensed, you can have up to 6 house plants.
So is the state of Oklahoma going to defend the doctor when the DEA comes after him and takes his certificate?
I already answered that. It's not they aren't prescribing anything.
That's semantics.
Yeah.
Okay. So if the DEA decides that that's a prescription, regardless of what you call it, and they come pull that guy's certificate, he's out of business.
I think he has a hearing is what happens first by federal law. Yeah. So
he's out of business.
Okay. Well,
until he gets
anyway, if you're a physician, then I think that's a concern to you. Yes.
The money of all these competing interests grow, dispense, regulate. Where's this falling out? I mean, does any of it come down to the consumer getting cheap pot, or is it going to be
Well, with the board,
nasty windfall for
yeah.
a bunch of corporations and politicians?
Well, there are two groups, and one, Bud Scott, I know him. He's Seneca Scott's brother, actually. He spoke here. And he's connected with a lot of the big, wealthy, out-of-state interests and that. And he was trying to make the rules such that the big corporate interests have a chance. And another group, led by Chip Hall in Owasso, has formed another trade group, and they're trying to keep it simple enough so that Oklahomans can enter into it. I mean, the restrictions are really, really tough. The paperwork on this is just unbelievable. But I think overall, what the health department study group came up with, I think is a good, prudent set of guidelines. I think us voting for in 788 was actually was a step of faith that those proper rules would be there. And I have to say, the health department, I think, generally did until their board decided to throw in a few left curves. So, anyway, the not having qualifying conditions, the principle behind that was, it's health care, and with the federal government very soon, and Trey Gowdy's been beating the drum on this, getting the federal government to change it from a Schedule 1 controlled substance to at least Schedule 2, that would allow universities to do laboratory studies, test group studies, and actually let's start finding out what's going on. The proponents of this wanted the medical oversight boards to be the arbiters of whether a doctor is being responsible in the care they provide, not the legislative body defining which conditions. I did have a big battle on that. I went and talked to Senator Yen about PTSD, and he says, Dave, I'm not going to do it. And I said, well, if you don't, somebody else will. I said, I'm just telling you it's coming. And then I went right over to Frank Simpson, who's a big Veterans Affairs proponent, and I told him, and I totally turned Frank against Yen's bill, and Yen's bill died. So I think there's a lot going on, and a lot will continue to go on, but I'm on the Drug Policy Reform Network board, and we're going to be doing a symposium early next month that just answers questions for the patient perspective. It's not going to be for the growers, the businessmen. I'm getting with John Eccles. He may come to speak to some of the legislative intent on that, and we'll probably have doctors, psychiatrists, and a number of people.
Here in Tulsa?
Yeah, I'm trying to, yep. I think the American Legion asked if they could partner with us on that. So, yes, sir.
Many people showed up at the polls, young people and libertarians, specifically to vote on this issue. And while they were there, they went ahead and voted against the opposition, or perceived opposition, so they essentially voted Democrat. There was a lot of new Democrat voters.
The Democrat Party allows independents to also vote in their primary. That's their decision. There were about 50,000 people voted for the medical marijuana question and then didn't vote on any of the other races. I was at the watch party for the vote yes, and it was an interesting cultural experience for me, I'll tell you that. But, here's the thing I want to say. This is liberty in a way they can appreciate it, and I'm building on that. They understand the issues that might be most important to them, and I use it as a launching pad to say, this is why liberty is important. And I pointed out to them Tuesday when the healthcare authority, the board, which is mostly doctors and university med school presidents and hospital administrators. And they were pushing all these socialized medicine things, these quotas and all this stuff. And I said, look, it's not just the right-wing moralist that's endangering your liberty, it's also the left-wing socialist. Yeah, and so this is really an issue of not left versus right. This is really big versus small. And so liberty has an opportunity to really be impressed upon people that maybe you and I aren't reaching. They might not come to a 9/12 meeting for a while, but...
Well, most millennials nationwide are, if they register to vote, they're registering primarily as independents.
Yes, they are. That's a disconnect issue. And so what I've told them in this, I said, and these are the proponents, I said, this one from a mixture of some Tea Party right, some populist left, and libertarians somewhere in the middle of that. And I told them, I said, if you guys want to sustain what you've won here in Liberty, you've got to keep your coalition together. And you've got to make liberty more important than party. Mr. Chairman, amen? Yes, thank you.
So what is the mood for these two other initiative petitions now?
I'm strongly voicing opposition to them. And what I said to these groups, I said, look, the right way to do this is let's get a body of evidence, maybe a couple of years of just medical marijuana, where we, the people of Oklahoma, can observe for ourselves what it's doing in our community. Lives being helped versus social problems that may come into being. I don't want, if we decide that we're going to just get rid of the prohibition altogether, just like we eventually got rid of the liquor prohibition. I'm still a teetotaler, okay? So, I don't ever plan on doing recreational pot. It's just, this is my faith, okay? But, I said, if we do this, you don't want what 797 has with a 20% tax on it. That's called a sin tax. That's called shaming. And the government uses shame to tax people to death. If this is really medicine, we need to give it all the honor and dignity we do every other medicine. Otherwise, we're just admitting we're sinning, tax us to death. And that's what they've done with 797. So, no, I'm not going to support 797.
Anybody have any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Carl.
When you say liberty, I've noticed that there's no distinction being made about regulated liberty and free market liberty. And the two are diametrically opposed, really, because we have all these liberty ideas that are then being turned into these regulations.
Right.
That actually say, well, you can do it, but you have to follow this, and this, and this, and we're being regulated to death.
It is,
All it does is help the people who have the most money to be able to jump through all those hoops that the state's political system throws up.
Absolutely.
Then we can't.
And they've got their lobbyists, and they'll make the rules to benefit them.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. And that's why I've kind of gone... I've made Bud Scott the fall guy. He was the one that said in a press conference, he says, we're going to have inspections of what people are growing in their backyards. And Liza Grieve just about blew fuse over there. Ain't nobody coming to my backyard. And but yeah, this is, and they're treating this as a medicine. Even though it's only going to be, for people prescribed, well, I say prescribed, where the physician recommends this as a course of treatment, and yet they're treating it like it's worse than liquor. Now, I'm sorry, but, I'm having a hard time finding anybody who's overdosed and died from marijuana truly has an overdose. Now, I'm not saying there's not dangers, and I held a meeting last January where I invited some parents in whose son had died because he ate 5 times the maximum recommended dose, and he went into a psychotic paranoia and was left alone with a handgun, and he shot himself. Okay? LSD is dangerous, not from the overdose, but from jumping off the 5th-story balcony. So yeah, there are dangers. We have to do this prudently. So.
All right. Anybody else?
All right.
We're good? Thank you, David.